Gather Round continues, coming to you from Norwood. Beautiful part of the world. The lights are on. It's got a real country footy feel. We only need a few cars around the outside beeping their horns. The Fremantle Dockers are warming up in front of us. The Gold Coast Suns are not too far away. We are that close to the ground here that the benches are right in front of us, so the Chief needs to be very accurate with his special comments because the coaches are here. We're a little bit on edge for reasons we'll get to. I look at the captain of the team. He's not here. He's doing a Cashie. I look to the flashy small forward. He's in a cab. Nathan Brown's not here. Luke Darcy's not here. So I look to the man that we started this show with 6 years ago, Damien Barrett. Damien, it's nice to see you. We're a very different team and a slightly on-edge team, but nice to see you, Guru.
Yeah, we are on edge, Howie, and we'll have to get a resolution to it in some form in the next 15 minutes, and I'll let you set it up in a way that will hopefully resonate with our listeners, but it's going to be some nervous moments for one person and then for others around that one person.
Here he is now, Mr. 1254, my sporting hero when I was growing up. He walked down with me towards the hotel. People were talking to him about Bounce and the Mighty Hawks and his 4 premierships. He's close to the action and he looks $1 million. I've never seen him look better, Jason Dunstall. And he's here in front of me and he's turning heads. Hello to you, Chiefy.
Good afternoon, Howie, gents, to all our loyal Triple M listeners. No reason for anyone to be nervous, though. I think we all know exactly where we stand. And whether the show ends with 4 people, 3 or 2, that's yet to be decided. We will find that out as we go along. It's almost like a mystery novel, isn't it?
It is. Choose your own adventure. And for the first time on the Friday Huddle, on debut, Mr. South Australia himself, Bernie Vince is with us. Bern, welcome to the Huddle. It is great to have you here, mate.
Thanks, Howie. Yep. You finally got over to Adelaide. How good's Adelaide, boys? You're enjoying it, aren't you,
Brilliant.
Chief? He's loving the walks from his hotel down to the ground and mixing with the people. He's always been a people's person.
What about when I was coming over to Adelaide? I get a text from B. Vince. Phone goes, Bern, nice. Mate, do you want to have a hit of golf this morning? So this is yesterday.
Pretty good text, I would have thought.
Nice.
Welcoming him.
It was a great text.
Right.
He waited until I was actually in Adelaide before he texted me, so I had no gear. I had no possible chance of having that hit, and it dawned on me that that's exactly how he wanted it all to unfold, so he could assuage the guilt of not having asked me, but knew that I wouldn't be able to accept. That's the power of intellect that I'm dealing with here.
To be fair, I did check the roster and found out I was working with Chief and thought, geez, I better invite him, even though I didn't have a spot, and I knew he wouldn't have his gear, so it worked out perfectly.
Would you have had time to play golf, Chief?
I would have loved to have had a hit, but...
Right.
It was 8:05.
Yeah.
Touch early for the Chief.
Got to be careful when you're working with metal pygmies, though, Howie. It's everything's a consideration. What we do, how we evolve, how we get on together today. There's a lot of chemistry to unfold, and if we mix the wrong things together, it could result in a laboratory experiment exploding.
He's my hero, and I'm very anxious. I'm very anxious.
I'm nervous.
I feel threatened. I don't know why. What's
you don't even know what's about.
What's this on edge
I think we should just talk about the forward structure of the Fremantle Dockers for the next half an hour and do a real AM operation, Burn, and just stick to our strength.
Okay.
And then one of these two teams is going to go 1 and
That's
4,
right.
which will be a serious...
However, before we get to that, so I tuned into the football last night, and I'm watching on Fox because it's the magnificent 4K, no ad breaks in play.
Yep.
Everyone's in the venue. It's brilliant.
I was going to say, weirdly enough, people were at the ground.
It's brilliant, and I love to see the coaches' interviews, and I was stoked because my man, Mr. 1254, was on hosting duties last night.
Yep.
And a couple of things were said in the call by the coaches, Nix and Voss, that I don't know what they meant. So I need to ask Chief what they meant, but this is what went down on Fox Footy last night.
Before I go, guys, I did want to congratulate Jace on the Bachelor of the Year stuff. I mean, it's about time. I can't believe it took him so long to be honest.
Listen here, Nixie, you've got a game to concentrate on. Away you go, son.
Here's to the ball, guys, Jace. Let's go.
Well done, mate.
Can I just pass congratulations on to Jace as well for being the most eligible Bachelor?
You're better than this, Vossi. You are so much better than this.
Mate, it's actually come into the change rooms and we found out, and I just felt compelled to be able to pass on my congratulations to you,
Great
mate.
stitch up. Thank you, mate. Good luck.
Now, Chief, I was surfing all week. I'm not a great consumer of the news.
Don't pretend you don't know, Howie. At least have the spine in that hideous little frame of yours. Show a ticker of vertebrae and actually come out and say it.
If we're going to get through these next 10 minutes, don't be disingenuous.
Okay.
Correct.
So an article was written by Jackie Epstein, who does a wonderful job in the small paper, and she talked about, Damo, the most eligible bachelors in Melbourne.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So some of the people...
And who was on there?
Well, some of the people were in there. Ryan Pappenhausen from the Melbourne Storm.
Oh, yeah.
Just an unbelievable
Legit.
rugby league
Yep.
player
Yep.
in his prime. A young man on the way up. You got Mason Cox, a big American feel to him, something a little bit exotic, just a man that cuts through. You got fashionistas, you've got chefs,
Rock
you've got
stars.
all sorts.
Yep.
All generally about 28 years of age.
Oh, no.
And then at the bottom, pretty much saying...
Was he at the
I
bottom?
want to step out of the box.
Was he at the bottom now?
Well, he was at the bottom because it was 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, counting down to number 1.
Okay.
And at that point, the man's won 4 premierships. He's kicked 1,254 goals. He's lived the life of a god. And at age, Chief?
58.
58.
He's got another memento.
Number 1.
Number 1.
Bachelor.
What?
In Melbourne, full stop.
Oh, gee.
Number 1, our man. He's 58.
Now, this is about the zone where we've been told to stay away from. We have been warned, Burn. You missed the meeting.
Oh,
but
I did miss that.
we were warned that we could go down this path, but only to a certain point. And this is where this is probably where we'd be safe to pull out. Okay?
What sort of...
And if we stop now, he'd talk to us again, and he wouldn't.
Well,
walk out.
but before we get to the Chiefs' response, which the world is awaiting
You got
on,
some more?
a couple of others are wading to the debate, Dave.
And why they waited? Yeah.
Well, because they found it fantastic that a man of 58 years of age could be the number 1 bachelor in
Number
Melbourne.
1.
So the first person...
he's
keep your headphones on. The first person that is our great mate from Fox Footy, this is what Nathan Buckley's view on Brownie. John O'Brien does a wonderful podcast, Brownie's podcast. It's right up there. This is what Nathan thought about it.
Who wrote this? Jackie Epstein.
Jackie Epstein. So
Do you reckon that, you know how sometimes stories are planted by people? Do you reckon Bungy's actually planted that story?
you reckon Chiefs planted that in their own
He's asked Jackie to write it up.
He's on the market.
I'm going well, but I just want to just my stocks to rise a little bit.
See, Bucks brought that humour to the bounce.
Best on
Or best
ground
on
is what
ground.
you're looking for. Now, the Chief's private life is his private life, and that is none of our business. But I just, before he responds, because I know he wants to say his piece on this, I know he's got a good 5 minutes for us.
He's got to write a reply. He's asked for that.
On this podcast of Brownie's podcast.
There's not more. You haven't got any more.
Well, Brownie himself made a couple of comments that I thought were disingenuous.
I think we're getting into this zone where he's going to walk out.
Body language poor here.
Did we play these demo or not?
This is on you, actually.
Oh, no. Don't you jump out.
He's out of the box.
He's moving out of the box. He's moved down onto the
I've
edge
got
of the
my
oval.
exit strategy.
Chief, are you all right if we play...
I'm out now. I'm out now.
Just
You
say,
play whatever you like,
okay, this is John O'Brien's.
Your show,
This
your
is John
funeral.
O'Brien's theory on Chief being the number 1 bachelor in Melbourne.
I reckon if Chief ever plays dress ups, you know, with a love of his, do you reckon he ever?
Wow, this took a turn. Jesus,
Do you
mate.
reckon he ever brings out the helmet?
That'll really get the mood.
Imagine the Chief walking out, just standing there with the helmet on.
See, I've got to be brutally honest. I've got to be brutally honest.
Here we go.
Comments from Jay Browne don't essentially worry me because he's the dumbest man on the face of the planet. I mean, seriously. Have you ever heard anything semi-intelligent come out of his mouth? But Bucks is the interesting one. Fancy Bucks trying to do comedy. Surely Best on Ground taught us something, and that is that's not his space.
That's why it's
There's
not
a
here.
reason the show was given the arse. They call Bucks the anchor because when it comes to comedy, he drags everything down. So seriously, what is going on with you blokes? You got to be better than that.
Chief, what, in all seriousness, congratulations on the award.
There's no congratulations.
What-
It's a ridiculous thing. It has nothing to do with me. I have no idea how I could possibly have any sort of eligibility other than a heartbeat for the elderly. Howie, that would be the only thing that I could possibly tie in. Aside from that, what are we talking about next?
Well, just before we move on.
Were you quoted in the article?
No, wasn't even spoken. Before I spear you onto the ground, Howie, what do you want to get
I
out?
was just talking about the fact that we walked down to the ground together. And I talked about the adulation for 12.54. But I thought I was looking good because I was turning a few heads and I'd done my hair. And
Yep.
I'm looking reasonably fit at the moment. Then I realised no one was looking at me.
No, yeah.
They were looking at the number 1 bachelor.
Have you
He was
noticed a
turning
bit of a-
Number 1.
Have you noticed a bit of a makeover over the...
Move on, Howie.
What?
Not much to make over, Damien.
Chief, what did you think when it was brought to your
Howie,
attention?
we're done.
No, just
Howie,
Did you find
we
it?
are done.
what did you think?
We're done.
Just tell us what you thought.
Did you come across it, or did someone tell you about it?
And no, Chief, don't walk out, Chief. Chief, don't walk out. I think we're moving on, Damo.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
You haven't helped much here,
I
Damo,
have.
to be
I've
honest.
set it up for you.
Move on, Harry.
Mind you, we've got more out than I thought we were going to get, by the way.
Move on.
Okay.
He's done that.
You had
really
a
well.
laugh. Move on.
Round of
Well done,
applause,
Chief.
though. Well done.
Well done.
Fantastic.
Never to be spoken of again.
A trophy or a holiday? You win? I don't know.
See, maybe I was too harsh on Jay Browne. Maybe he's not the dumbest man on the face of the planet. He might be number 2.
Should we take a break?
And you've got no exit plan.
I've got nowhere to
You
go
are
here.
lost here.
Now, nice that Nath has finally arrived.
Nath.
What, you just can't do interstate travel? Lovely to see you.
Good to be here too. You know why the Chief could remember that game? That was when he owned JD's bar in the late 80s and he was going out a lot. I'm not sure what he was doing, but that's the reason.
Nath.
There was a lot of blackouts.
You're always on the cutting edge of fashion.
Yeah.
The polo you're wearing, it's got that real retirement home feel, you know, with the elastic sort of bit down the bottom that holds it when it sits on there. I mean, you see the old blokes in the funny coloured pants and shoes and
I don't
crap
mind it.
wearing that.
I wouldn't be going with the fashion chief.
No, I know, you love it, and you've got your $1,000 boots on. It's all great.
Just want to make sure.
Looks fantastic.
'cause
You
I
can wash your
missed
jeans,
the first
right?
10 minutes. We did cover the Brad Pitt, George Clooney stuff.
Stop.
Where
Stop.
we
Oh, no.
stopped.
Oh, no.
This was a lovely photo in the paper.
Keep going if you want, Nate.
Why were you late, Nathan?
Well, I was meant to be doing the late game, Richmond-Sydney. I got changed to this game so Duke could do his Cashie.
But you knew a
that he's
week ago
doing.
you were doing this game.
Well, I said we might need to change,
A
but I
week
think
ago.
all the flights were taken, Chief, and it was going to be...
No, they weren't. You made no effort to get on an earlier flight.
They put more flights on.
You
I
made
did.
no effort.
I text Ewan.
You made no effort.
I made every effort possible.
Well, Nathan, it's great to have you here. We were
But
discussing...
we did cover the Chief, yep.
Yes.
Sort of.
Moved on. No, Bernie, we've covered everything that needs to be covered.
It's a
there.
great effort. to
Go
be
back
one
there
of
if
the
you want, Nate.
Nate,
most eligible
Nate,
bachelors.
we don't need to go there. Chief, we've moved on. We're fine. Now, Nate, last week, you think he's joking? He's not joking.
He's not joking, mate.
He's taking his...
And we
not
tried to
joking.
tell you in the ad break, do not go there. We managed to get through the first segment.
Chiefy, we
Watch
need
out
you
for
for this segment.
Watch out for one.
Chiefy, we
He's
need
taking
you
his
for this
headset off.
segment.
You big baby.
He's just got... Come,
Imagine if it was one of us.
Oh,
Nathan.
Imagine if it was one of
Yeah.
us.
Nathan,
It'd
zip
be
it.
open season.
Oh,
Zip
he's giving him one.
Nathan, we've moved on from that.
Okay,
Hey,
I've-
last week,
I've now moved on.
Last week, you were describing that once again you got yourself in an awkward social situation. For those that missed it, this is what you said happened.
He looked at me and goes, how you get into the Gabba?
Yep.
And I was like, I've got a driver. And I'm like, he's not going to ask me for a lift in the car, is he? The whole way to the car, I'm like, I'm underprepared for this. What the hell am I going to talk about for half an hour? But I quickly found out Mason is a talker. So he just talked and he name drops a lot like you do.
Welcome to the Friday Huddle, the host of the Mason Cox Show, Australia's number one
yes.
sports podcast, and the big boy out of Collingwood, Big Tex himself.
What a great
Mason
ride it was, too.
Cox joins us. Hello, big fella. Nice to speak to you. How are you, great man?
I'm great, and beautiful company like that, Chief, man. It's a tough thing not to be in such great company with yourself, man. It's an absolute honor to be on that list with you. I think you maybe pipped me by one or two levels there, mate. But you know what they say: jealousy is the highest form of flattery. So just take it as you can.
I think it was always a given I was going to be higher rated than you, Mason. But what we really need to know, mate.
He's gone
is
there.
You've come a long way from the Dib 2 over there at Norfolk. So
Tell us about sharing a car with Nathan Browne, Mason.
to be honest, his Uber rating's probably lower than 3 stars. To be honest, now he's a good man. He's a great man. It was a great chat. I think you had that awkward scenario where I got my bag and I said, "Where are you going?" And we kind of said our goodbyes, and then we started walking the same direction. And I found a cheap way to get to the Gabba, which was Triple M's driver. So thanks Triple M for the free trip to the Gabba. It saved me $60 in an Uber. But it was an excruciating 30-minute ride with Browny.
What do you talk about, Mason? Where'd you go?
Well, luckily enough, myself and Marc Howard that's there with you have a podcast, so we've got a little bit of experience in this. We talked about his kids. We talked about his wife. It was like pulling teeth. It was real short answers. Real short answers. The man does not like. I don't know how he's got a job on radio. It's really another question. Triple M, what are you doing?
Mason, we learned some years ago that Nathan, even when he met his beautiful now wife, Christina, had to take home notes, like little post-it notes, and just so he could have conversation wedges. We also learned that in a former life, when he was single and was dating, that his often go-to line was, have you got a pet? So did pets come up in your conversation just to get you through a couple of minutes?
I think I think he's got a couple dogs, to be honest. I'm not.
Oh, you did bring that up.
That's a go-to, Damo. It's an icebreaker. When you talk about pets or the weather, you get about 2 or 3 minutes out of that.
Coxie, you can speak to anyone. You're a very affable chap, but just give us, in your experience, travelling the world, coming over here as an American, not knowing many people and having to meet and break the ice and meet new people, how awkward was the conversation compared to others you may have had on your travels?
It's up there. It's top 5 for sure. Just no question about it. I think it was just he gave maybe 1 or 2 word answers, and that's just not good for anyone in a 30-minute car ride. I think even the Uber driver, the driver that was there, kind of felt awkward by the end of it. He wasn't really sure how to handle the situation. We got out of it. I just kind of darted the other way and just ran straight to the change room just to get out of the situation.
And before we let you go, mate, we love the Mason Cox Show. It's dominating. It's a wonderful, wonderful podcast. Nath is very deeply embedded in the Planet Shakers. He's a man of religion. Did he attempt to recruit you over to maybe come to a meeting of the Shakers on a Sunday morning?
No, it hasn't yet, but if it pays well, I'm all there.
Hey, it's the other way, mate, so you put money in.
Yeah, he won't be involved in that. Mace, I'd be remiss of us not to get an injury update from you too, mate. When are we going to see you back in action?
Hopefully sooner rather than later. We've got checkouts with the doctor this week coming up, and we'll get an idea with the CT scan of how the body's healed. But, yeah, it's a bit frustrating at the moment because I physically can't do much, can't get the heart rate up and get the blood pumping. So it's a lot of relaxation and just waiting for the doctor to make his decisions now, which, as an athlete can be a bit frustrating at times, but this is all part of the process.
And Mason, you always come across as someone who thinks way outside the square. With Gather Round being introduced to the AFL this year, do you like it? Do you have other suggestions for the AFL to better its product?
Yeah, I'll probably do a showdown at the MCG. What do you reckon?
Nice.
That was good.
We'll go with that.
You caught up with Trevor Hendy while you're on the Gold Coast, Mason, yeah?
What's this, sorry?
You caught up with Trevor Hendy down on the Gold Coast, I believe.
Yeah, great man, Trevor. Stayed at his place for a night, and he's always looked after myself. He spent a bit of time at the Collingwood Football Club back in the day, so I've always been a good fan of him. I had no idea who he was whenever I met him. I know he's an absolute superstar in the athletic world here, but he's been amazing. It's awesome some of the people I've met in my travels here, and my experiences through being an athlete and playing for the Collingwood Football Club. Obviously, there's some pretty cool experiences that come with it, and being up there with Chief on the Bachelors of Melbourne, it's definitely top 5.
Chief's given us that's the end of the conversation. Type the sign now.
Thanks, Maso.
Yeah, y'all. It doesn't matter.
Thanks, Maso.
Collingwood.
Thanks, mate.
The Dockers are out here in front of us. The Suns are out having a run around. The lights are on. We're in Norwood for the second match of the Gather Round. Nate, before we get to our top 5, you were just explaining something to us that none of us were too aware about a bit of journalistic stoush.
There was a journalistic stoush in the Carlton rooms, and I read it in the paper, so I wanted to find out more about it because it had to do with our man Tom Browne.
So what? Set the scene for us.
Well, it was post the Carlton game where they'd won the game. And everybody
Good Friday last week.
Quite jovial, yeah. And we'd had the Thursday night clash the night before, which was Brisbane-Collingwood. And so Tom Browne came up to Marc McGowan, former Channel 9. Where's Marc now?
He's now at the H.
Who's a big
He's a solid unit.
And I wouldn't go up to him, and I don't think you would the way that Marc is built. But Tom...
Well, I'm close with Marc, and I'm close with Tom.
Fantastic reporter.
Has gone up to him and questioned one of his tweets from the night before.
What was the tweet?
It was about the call of the Thursday night clash between Collingwood and Brisbane, suggesting it might have been a bit biased towards Collingwood. Which,
Marc tweeted that.
Yeah, which Tom, I think, took umbrage to because he is part of Channel 7 and defended Channel 7.
Big part.
Tom rustled up to Marc in the rooms at probably an inopportune time. And
were there players around?
There was a lot of people around, a lot of staff and coaches, and Tom let him know what he thought about his tweet in no uncertain terms.
What can you tell us he said, Brownie?
Allegedly.
Hang on, Hang on, Chief.
Leave the swear words out.
Hang on.
If there were any swear words, leave those out. But
There wasn't any swear words in Tom's part, I don't believe. Tom
Right.
kept it clean. But just question his place, I think. And I don't think it went down well with Marc.
what did
so
Marc
I want to
retort
speak
with?
to Tom about it.
What did Marc retort with?
It was a good shot across the bow coming back the other way. So it was a really good interaction.
Who won?
Who won?
If you gave the points, who won?
Who won?
Nate. We're all about honesty here on Triple M.
Nate's just thinking where his next check's coming from.
Yeah.
He's just trying to work
He's
his
trying to
way
work
through
out
that.
if I bag Tom now, what happens, and if I bag Marc now, what
I'm
happens?
not bagging anyone. I'm just presenting.
Did Tom get clipped?
I'm just presenting what
I
happened.
heard Marc McGowan won. I heard it. Yeah.
I heard it was a TKO.
It wasn't a. I wouldn't call it a TKO.
Well, a standing
Jason.
8 count.
No.
Why won't Tommy come on?
Tom held his own.
We're just a couple of blokes with strong opinions putting them forward, which is fantastic.
In the change rooms, which is rare. Which is rare.
Okay, time for...
But I thought he'd well.
He's a self-proclaimed footy superstar.
I reckon I was probably the most influential player in the AFL.
He fears nothing and no one.
This is all off-air stuff that you're not allowed to talk about on air, but I've gone with it anyway.
And he sees the world a little differently.
Just watching a Komodo dragon eat a monkey.
This is Nathan Brown's Top 5.
Now, Nathan, I would have liked a little bit of time with you before the show to get a little bit more preparation here as to what we're going to do, but let's have a go of it anyway. Top 5, Nath, this week. We are talking about all the commercial opportunities this week in Adelaide as a result of the football being in town.
It would be absolutely exciting coming in this week knowing that you're from Adelaide and Bernie's obviously from Adelaide. So the people in Adelaide would be excited because, like Damo, in the grand final week, there are a lot of paid jobs, whether they're cashies or whether you get them paid through the books. That's up to you. I'd imagine that most people get them paid through the books like I do. So I don't go for the cash payments, Chief.
And then you give it straight to the shakers. Don't you? Whatever
we
you
do.
get.
It comes back 10
So we got the top 5 money earners doing functions this week in Adelaide.
It's a good list.
So I'd like this known that this is a joint venture between me and Howard.
Joint, is it?
I've come up with some names. Nate's more our figures man.
Yep. He did come up with names, I mashed the books together.
How would you apportion the contribution? Was it a 50-50 split, a 60-40
Depends
your
how well
way,
the
Nate?
segment goes.
Yep. At the moment, it's even.
Yeah, we're even.
Like the Tom Brown, Marc McGowan.
Okay.
50-50.
Dominated by South Australians. So the local boys are still very, very much.
So one person who was in the top 5 and was a late out,
Yeah.
unfortunately, is a local South Australian by the name of Warren Treadray.
Oh, no.
And now
Really?
Warren was pretty harsh on the coach a couple of weeks ago, and then might have missed out on a couple of
cost him, you reckon?
cost him a
Okay.
couple.
And then another local lad missed the top 5, but he comes in at number 6. Our own Bernie Vince. Congratulations, Bern. The only thing about Bern is 6. Bern did 3 times as many gigs as anyone else, but
That's a low blow.
his fee, Chief,
That's a low
is
blow.
not at the same level of some of these others.
What's he getting? 200?
For 2 gigs, yeah.
Well, hang on. Did you factor in what he won on the golf course this morning? Because that might tip him over the edge.
Actually,
Okay.
he did win on the golf course today.
Okay,
Me and
so,
Good Lord.
Big
so
win.
coming in number 5, Nath.
Coming in at number 5,
6.
we are
Local
going
legend.
to go with Sean Burgoyne.
Sean Burgoyne.
Now,
Serious?
Yeah.
We saw him
Premiership
last night.
player,
Saw him
unbelievable
last
player.
night.
So you
Spotted
can't
him
go
in
past him.
Watertown during the week
Yep.
too, early in the week.
He's doing a couple of gigs over there early.
And I would have thought at a minimum, Silk gets about 2,000 a performance, and upwards of the very best ones of 3,000 performance. And so he's done very well. And I'm led to believe that maybe over the 10K mark for the week too.
Right, that's good. That's good. We've got 2 minutes 45 before we have to time out. So we've got Shawnee Burgoyne in the 10 to 15 region.
Yep.
Coming in at number 4, local legend, plied his trade around Australia, super coach from Collingwood, was right up there, got bumped down a bit late. Nathan Buckley.
Nathan Buckley. And
Coming in number
he's
4.
A little bit extra because obviously their show is only a special project show now. So any
On
sort
tomorrow
of
night,
cash
best on ground, by the
Bucks
way.
can get,
Is it
he's
back?
going for. So number 3 is...
This now, when we said it's a joint investigation, this is the part I had nothing to do with. So I'm extracting myself from number
Right.
3. So Nathan was in the $20,000 mark.
Is this where it goes downhill?
No, this is Nath came up with
Well,
this.
this is the first outsider from South Australia. It's the only
First non-South
non-native
Australian.
South Australian in the list.
Okay.
And now this man is prolific. Anytime you go to any sort of function, and we all have worked with him, and his name's Brian Taylor.
Oh, yes, BT.
So Marc wasn't keen to go with that one, but I'm happy to go with BT. But BT thought that he might have been the number 1 or the number 2, but he was ticking to about $20,000 BT. So his son manages him now, doing a very, very good job. But Brian
Managed
would
by
be
his
disappointed that he's not 1 or 2 at the top of the tree. He's going, who's taking my money
That'll get
in
back
this
to
top
his son
5?
too.
Coming in number 2 is a man that was on the front bar last night, and from what I'm led to believe, the highest fee the front bar has ever paid a guest.
I think I know who you mean.
Shy.
One of the greats.
Godra.
Oh, yes.
Modra.
He's number
Number
2.
two.
He was
Not
number
even
1 all week, but there was a late breaker.
Wow.
Up to 30.
And as most of Modra's money come from the front bar.
It was a significant payment. As I said, I've been led to believe it was the highest fee they've ever paid a guest on the show, and he delivered in
Are we
spades.
talking
Oh, I don't want to go into specifics.
6 figures
I don't want to go into specifics, Damien.
or high fives?
I don't want to go into specifics, which leaves us to the number 1, the
So the
king
number
of
one.
South Australia.
So with 8 gigs for the lead up and over the course of the weekend,
8 gigs, it's solid.
is the Brownlow medalist himself. So 8 gigs at around the 5K a pop mark
Time.
is Marc Rasciuto.
Big Roo won this thing.
Roo.
Still the king of Adelaide.
King of Adelaide, always will be, always
Big
has
in
been.
Waikerie.
And yeah, probably around the 40 grand mark.
Mayor
Lunches,
of Port
dinners.
Lincoln.
He went to Bordertown. He's been to Renmark, Waikerie. He's done the rounds. It's like he's
So well done,
this round.
Roo.
And we believe that most of them put them through the books too, Howard. Yeah.
Yep.
Most.
Just
eh?
great to see
Taxman
that.
will be keen to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah.